Folks, I can't quite believe I'm saying this, but I have to give a massive, massive welcome to Philip McCallen, the Godfather of road racing. Welcome to the Motorcycle Hour podcast. How are you keeping?
I'm doing well, thank you. You know, The Godfather, we've had the classic bike festival over the weekend, and we were talking about the real Godfather, Joey Dunlop,
Yeah.
but Joey's not with us anymore, so I
No,
would I
absolutely.
would gladly accept that title. Anything
Abs-
in the shoes of Joey, you're doing well.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Look at Tony Moore's joined with us here as well. I know Tony has had dealt with you in the previous days and stuff. Anyone that's listened to the podcast, you're a household name. I suppose everywhere. Anybody that's even people that are not motorcycle related will have know Philip McCallen and on all about you. I obviously doing some of my research just had a look over some of your wins, and they're just absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, I knew you're hugely successful when you just go through some of these numbers. It's absolutely incredible. Like 5 wins in one day at the Ulster Grand Prix, 5 wins in the Northwest in a day. 4 race wins in the. I know you wanted to make that five, but 4 race wins in the TT in one week. Absolutely incredible stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. You know, you look back on at the time, it was just a job. You know, it was my job was to win races, and I loved doing that. And you know, the more races you won, the sort of the easier life became. You know, financially, and because racing is very, very expensive. So, you know, if you could win some races and get some prize money, that was even better. Then suddenly your parts would become cheaper as well, and then you might get someone want to sponsor you, or you could get a manufacturer. So it was it's a pretty simple a simple workout. You know, if you
Yeah.
want to do well, you want to get help, you've got to win races. And I wanted to win races. So it was absolutely brilliant. But to look back now, like you're talking about, you know, that was a day's work, you know, to win races at the Northwest. But when you look back, you know, five, and I get a lot of stick for this from my friends talking about, so I try not to talk about it. So, but you forced me tonight. Uh, to get like five Northwest wins in one day, that's unreal. You know, no one, that's now 33 years ago, and no one has done it yet, you know. So it's, in its day, it must have been good, you know, to win, you know, to ride five different machines and win in five different classes is not easy. It's not
No
easy
way.
because,
No.
you know, we had the best of people in each of those classes.
It's just, and going back, like it's a different era, of course, too. But that I think in a lot of ways only added to the difficulty of doing that. Like the bikes, they were a completely different machine. They were a different animal altogether, and things were a lot different back there. So it just adds to it, I suppose, when you look back on you didn't have all the technology that some of these bikes have nowadays either.
No, we had to just like you've got dynos now and all sorts of measuring equipment, electronics for suspension, which is all brilliant because the world moves on and that's where it is, you know, today. But back then, you know, we every road race, you know, obviously road races are only once a year, so you can't practice them every week. So you got one night's practice, or even in some of our road races back then, you didn't get any practice. You turned up on a Saturday morning and you rode your bike. So it was all trial and error. It was adjust the suspension slightly this week one way, this week another week. And then if you got it right, you went to another road race in 2 weeks' time and the bike was perfect. But what road surfaces are different. So you could go to one, the bike would be even worse. So it was like
Well,
mathematical.
just bringing you back then, as Brendan was saying there. So again, when you started, I mean, obviously you were racing, and if my again, we're going back to the start. Am I right in saying that Joey actually got injured? Was something happened with Joey, and he put in a word for you then for you like obviously recommended you to Honda. Was not what happened? Did that
Yeah,
help you get in with the Hondas and all that, or
yeah,
were
that's
you racing
totally
before that?
no, that's totally true. So I started racing really in 1984 in a wee 125 Yamaha.
Yeah.
And then 85, I had a bad car accident. So that took me out for a year. My foot was crushed up and I had lots of injuries, chest injuries and head injuries. And so I had to take a year out. And then I came back in 86 and on a 125 Yamaha. But anyway, we progressed through and Joey and I became like you can't say you're Joey's best friend because nobody knows if you were Joey's best friend or not. But
Yeah, yeah.
we, Joey was a different man the way he done things, and you
I
know,
listened to Eddie Laycock saying that, Joe either liked you or didn't like you.
yeah. Well,
And he was saying, like, I was sitting in a pub, he says, and Joey came over and sat down beside me, he says, He said exactly that. I either like you or I don't like you. He says, and I like you, he says.
Yes, yeah.
So
Well,
there was no grey area there. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
but Daddy was very lucky that Joey said that to him. He never ever said to me, Philip, I like you or I don't like you, you know. And
Yeah.
so I took it. We were reasonably good friends, and I came up. Then 1988, I had some. Was the first year I beat Joey Dunlop, you know, and I beat everyone really. I got my new 250 Honda, the Brian Reeds, the Stephen Culls, the Noel Hudsons,
Yeah.
uh, Eddie Laycock. You know,
Yeah.
I beat everybody in '88. And Joey and I, Joey wasn't stupid. You know, he was a very clever man. He didn't
Oh
talk,
yeah. Yeah.
as we know, he didn't talk very much, but he thought a lot. And, you know, his eyes and his expressions sort of told you what he was thinking. But anyway, uh, I think, you know, he realized, what he has admitted on video himself, that, you know, I was a pretty good kid coming along and I tried hard, and he respected me for that because, you
Mm.
know, road racing, if you try, you know, and you can do that, you've earned it. It wasn't given to you, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
so Joey and I became pretty good friends anyway. In 1988, I actually had a big crash at the Northwest 200 and I broke my foot. And so I had no bike. And Joey was going on to the TT after the Northwest. And I lent him sort of many parts of my 250 because there was about maybe five or six of us, three or four of us had new 250 Hondas in Ireland.
Mm.
Stephen Cull had one, I had one, Joey had one. I can't remember who else had them, but they were a new bike and nobody knew much about them and had no spares. So I actually lent Joey, I can't remember all the parts, but when Joey headed off to the TT, I lent him a lot of parts off my 250 and he won the 250 TT that year.
Yeah.
So I
Jeez.
can
Yeah.
say my claim to fame was, you know, my 250 Manx Grand Prix winning, Irish Championship winning bike, parts of it went to the TT for Joey.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so I think that sort of cemented our relationship a bit. But Joey didn't sit down and talk about relationships. He would sit down and he would talk about what he wanted. If he wanted to tell you something, he would tell you, or he would look at your face and you would look at him, and his eyes would maybe tell you something, you know. And but that was Joey. So anyway, we got on good. And 1989, then I actually had was offered in 1988. I was a double Manx Grand Prix winner. You know, I was
Yeah.
at that time I was the only newcomer ever to win two races in a week, and I bust a lap record in both races by about 7 miles an hour.
Was
I'll
that
go on.
that was on an RC30, was it?
No, that was on my RS 250
Oh,
Honda
the honest. Oh,
in
yeah. Yeah.
88. I just rode 125s, 250s, and 350s then.
Yeah.
Really, it should have been a travel win because I was fit to win, obviously, in those paces. But my 350 in the lightweight in the junior race, the flipping clutch burnt out of it in the first lap.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
I didn't get a chance. So only for that, I probably, hopefully, would have been the only newcomer ever to win three Manxes in a week. You know, two
Jeez.
was good, but I was greedy. I wanted three. And my pace, you know, proved I was fit to do it. But no matter, we didn't get it. So anyway, then Bob McMillan from Honda was in the Isle of Man for the Manx that time, and he approached me to said he would love me to ride for them next year.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
think this is great that Honda has came along. I didn't go to them; they came to me and said we would like you to ride for us next year. That's very good. So we had some communication in the early part of winter. At this time, I'd been offered a ride by Kawasaki as well because you know they seen this young mad Irishman who was basically winning everything in the roads. You know, I was a newcomer, but I had seven, I think between road racing, short circuit champions, Irish and Ulster, I had seven championships that year between three bikes.
Jesus Christ.
And
Wow.
I had won all the road races there was. You know, I had lap records everywhere. And like I say, you know, the TT, for instance, you know, Stephen Cole went to the TT and he won the 250 race. But the race after that, when we came back home, was Scary's. And, you know, I beat Steve and I smashed the lap record. So obviously, I
Oh
was
my God.
now, you know, it was looking good. But I
Yeah.
did. I didn't see that at the time or didn't think that because I was just doing a job. I was riding bikes, and the more races I could win, the easier financially it became, you know.
Yeah.
And but what happened then in the winter time? Honda called me back. I can't remember it was a face meeting or a telephone meeting, and it says, "Look, Philip, we're sorry, we can't help you this year." Now nothing was ever in writing, but it was just a
A
verbal thing.
given.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
enough for me. Us Irishmen, we take stuff as verbal. When you shake your hand, you nod, and you say it. That's your commitment, you know, as
Yeah.
not as you know, in the world, not everyone thinks like that or works like that. They can
Yeah.
go back on things. But anyway, Honda went back on and said, "Look, Philip, we're really sorry we can't back you this year." And I go, "What?" And basically, you can check the record. They had too many riders, right? Honda at this time had Steve Heslop, they had Carl Fogarty, they had Brian Morrison. I think Roger Burnett was in then too,
Yeah.
and we had somebody else. I can't remember who, but there was four. Jamie Whittam,
Oh yeah.
So we had too many riders and not enough bikes. So it's like, oh Jesus, and that's just what he said. Like, Philip, we have more riders than we have bikes. We can't do this. So I thought, well, sort of so what?
Yeah.
But I had a Kawasaki offer. I didn't tell them that, so I thought, right, no problem. I've got bikes anyway. And Kawasaki had me led to believe that they were bringing a new 750 out, which was a new ZX7R, and we had a 600 that was winning British champion stuff already with Roger.
Roger Marshall, no?
No,
No?
Roger. There was a 600 Roger Hurst,
Right.
and
Oh yeah.
there was another, and Swan, one of the guys, Mike Swan was it? They were winning on 600s for Kawasaki in the UK. So the 600 was good. We had a 750 coming out, which we'd raced in the production, and they promised me a trick 750 built for the TT. So you couldn't. So I took the job, and I was a reasonable wage for them days with it. And I thought, so what? I don't need Honda, you know.
Yeah.
But uh, but I didn't know enough. I wasn't wise enough. And we started anyway. And the Kawasaki thing turned out, it was Kawasaki UK, but it was run through Norman Watt Motorcycles down at Temple, the motocross dealer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Norman is a lovely, lovely man. We had a good relationship. But look, the Kawasaki's weren't up to the pace. The 600 I got was basically a road bike that you couldn't modify to make fast enough. The 750, the first production bike I had, sort of didn't really handle like a bike should. And then the factory one coming for the TT hadn't arrived yet. But anyway, so going from winning everything every week, I suddenly wasn't on the rostrum anymore. And every time I tried to get on the rostrum, I'd crash. So I was having a
Yeah.
serious amount of crashes. Everything was going wrong. That was it. So then the road races started, Tandragee 100. So what happened? The Cookstown, I had a massive, massive crash in a 600 that people talk about still today, 600 Kawasaki, the Cookstown.
I've
Yeah.
seen that, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
basically the throttle stuck flat out. So I'm
Jesus.
going down the back straight, 150 mile an hour. This baby was singing. I was behind Sam McClemens.
Yeah.
Brian Reed was leading on his Yamaha, which the Yamaha was a bike for that class, and Sam McClemens was his Honda second, and I was third on my Kawasaki. But man, I was riding the wheels off this. By this time, I'd built up a pretty good relationship with Sam McClemens as well, because he again seen me as a young boy, maybe not a threat to him yet, but I was trying. And so anyway, what happened? We come down the back straight, flat out, and the end of this come through the farmyard. I don't know if you know the old course that was up over
Yeah.
the hill, back down, and I knocked the bike off coming through the farmyard to slow down to flat out in sixth gear, 150 mile an hour, knocked her off for the right hander, and it
Just
kept on
kept going.
going, kept going.
Jesus.
Shit, can't you imagine? Then, right, there's marshals, they run out to the side of the road waving these yellow flags, right? And I'm going, boys, my bike stuck flat out. I thought Sam had crashed round the corner. I thought Sam has slid off here. I'm going to kill him. I
Yeah.
can't stop. This bike isn't stopping. So nothing I could do. And lucky, a little man, I forget his name, but if you remember Davy Wood, who was, the man.
Yeah, it was Joey's manager, yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Well, this man who took the picture, that's the famous picture of the bike sliding sideways with the smoke flying out of it. He was Davy Wood's friend, and Lee's, Davy's wife's friend, where the picture came from, but that's later. So anyway, I drop it in. This bike won't stop. It's flat out. I do everything. You even see in the picture, I've pulled the clutch in, I've the brake on trying to stop it. This baby won't stop,
Yeah.
And I thought, right, I got to slow down a little bit, but I thought, right, I'm going to tip it into this right hander. I have no choice, do I? So I tip it in, and the bike starts to slide sideways. So I think I'm good, don't I? So this thing's sliding sideways. You see the picture, the smoke flying out of it, I actually think I'm holding it. You know what I mean? And I was for a certain amount of time. I was holding this thing sideways to 150. Next thing doesn't catch, right?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And fires me right through the hedge, right down into the field. And I remember sort of waking up or something, not knowing where I was, a bit dizzy, all the rest, and going and looking for my bike. I remember getting up and looking for my bike. Where is it? And then later on, I watched these people wheeling it across a field, which there's a picture of, you know.
Yeah.
So, what happened was it was going flat out down there, and the conrod broke on it. It broke a conrod, probably from high revs. The
Yeah.
conrod then churned the bottom out of the crankcases, which cut a nice big hole in the crankcases, and of course the oil all dumps out. It dumps
Yeah.
onto the exhaust, and then it runs onto the back wheel. That's where all
Oh,
the smoke was coming from, you know.
Jesus.
But so that's not too bad. But the real trouble was when the piston went up, it broke the valves and fired them back into the carburetors. So in the olden days, there's a linkage
Yes.
across
Yeah, yeah.
four carburetors. So a valve goes back in and holds the linkage, the
Wide
butterflies
open.
wide
Yeah.
open. So
Oh,
No.
that's why she wouldn't stop. She was sucking full fuel in, and that was it. You
Jesus
know,
Christ. There was no
so
stopping her.
there was no stopping her. Not even me could stop that baby. You know,
Jesus Christ. What my
so I wake up and anyway, I walk back to the pits thinking, shit, we're in trouble now, you know.
yeah.
That was my racing over for that day. But then Monday morning, I'm on to Kawasaki and I'm going berserk. I'm going berserk because this was a road bike modified by us, not professionals in Northern Ireland, you know.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it goes, boys, we can't keep us up. I'm not competitive. I'm not anything. So they sent me over a new 600 and it was a British SPAC super stock or 600 super sport, whatever.
Yeah.
Then the next time I rode that, the next week was Tandragee 100. 2 weeks later, I
Yeah.
was also beat up. I didn't break any bones, but there
So
was well beat all over. You can imagine 150 mile an hour fire
Absolutely. Yeah.
through a
uh,
hedge down
how
a
you
field.
did yeah, how you didn't break bones is I can't believe you walked away from it like Jesus Christ.
And so anyway, the next week was the Tandragee 100, and I've got my new 600. I had my 750, but I don't remember much about riding it. But I also had a 250. So really, I had a full fleet of bikes. So I had a KR1 250. That was a road bike. It was
Yeah.
a
I remember two stroke. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, KR1S. Well, what I had from Japan, you could in Japan they race those bikes with the Hondas and Suzuki's and all. And I had a KR1S with a full race Formula 3 kit.
Oh,
So that was been pistons and conrods and crankshafts, every single bit you could get.
Yeah.
Right. So my 250, I had it, and I was allowed to race it in the 250 class. But really, it was just a road bike modified. Now I was getting in the top six, top five in the road races, but don't forget the year before I'd been winning these and smashing lap records.
yeah.
And it was only a road bike modified. And again, I crashed that quite a few times, riding the wheels off it, thinking I should be winning here. But it was only a road bike modified. That was my 250. My 600 was my super sport, and then my 750 at this stage was still a production bike because the truck Formula One had never arrived yet from Japan.
Yeah.
And so I rode that to Tandragee. I can't remember. I think a 250 I maybe had a fourth. The 750, I don't know what happened in it. And the 600, I was fighting for the lead with Brian Reed.
Yeah.
And we didn't get the gearing spot on, but I thought, right, here we're here. This bike's now competitive. I can win once we just fine tune a few things. So I went home from the Tandragee pretty happy with a second place in that 600 race. Off we go northwest next, and it was a disaster. So I'm coming down into Port Rush to Metropole on this 750 Kawasaki, this latest ZX7R, and the thing wouldn't handle, right? So I was actually going from curb to curb right across the road and out the back. But I thought, well, look, we'll just ride it harder. We'll get over this. My 600 was nearly up there somewhere in the pace. My 250 obviously wasn't. And next thing I was called into the clerk of the course, Billy Nutt. And Billy says, Philip, how you doing? I'm doing well, you know. He goes, how's your 750 going? I goes, not too bad, you know. He goes, well, you'll not be racing it. I
Oh,
goes, no, I will. He goes, no, you won't. I goes, oh, well. He goes, you won't. So apparently the marshals and everybody, marshals and scrutineers and everything, seen this thing going down the road and reckoned it's dangerous, and I would be, I would be, I would be killed if I managed to race this thing, you know.
Jesus.
And so I wasn't allowed to race my 750 at the Northwest for whatever mechanical reasons.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
so
how did you then say into the Hondas then? What happened then? What was the lead
I
into the Hondas then?
this was a real quick bit. I have to finish this bit to make it
All right.
sensible.
Yeah.
So anyway, I ride the Northwest my 600, and the cam chain or something broke at I don't know when, practice, first race, whatever. So I had no racing.
Yeah.
I'm now gutted. Don't forget, this is a lad. I missed the Northwest the year before because I broke my foot in practice. But in my first time out, I was in the top six qualifying, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the racing's all over. That's it. So I'm going home, and poor Joey was in a bad way as well. He had just been, if you remember, knocked off his bike at Brands Hatch,
Yes,
Yeah.
and
yes,
it was a Fred Merkel or Stefan Mertens. Somebody knocked him off, I think, in the World
yeah,
Superbike. Anyway,
yes,
Formula One, whatever.
Hmm.
He's at home smashed up, and I am. So Sunday morning we're going home, and we say we'll go by Joey's pub on the way home. No problem. So we go. My girlfriend then, myself, we go into Joey's pub, and Joey is the only one sitting in there at the bar. So it says, "Hello, Joey." We go up. I sit at the bar. He's here, and I'm here. My girlfriend's here. Sit down, and he goes, "How's it going, Philip?" I goes, "Crap." I use stronger words than that. He
yeah,
goes, my six blah 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 600 blew up, 750 doesn't handle. He goes, I know you're having a hard time. I goes, I'm having a hard time. He goes, you know what? He says, you should be riding my bikes. And I goes, I nearly choked. I nearly fell over. I turned around and looked at my girlfriend. She looked at me. We looked at him. Those heads were going like this.
hmm,
I goes, sorry, what'd you say? He says, yeah, you should be riding my bikes.
Mm.
And I'm going, Jesus, are you sure? So we took a minute or two more, and I goes, well, how do we make this happen? You know,
Yeah.
he goes, well, I'll speak to Bob McMillan. I'll speak to Honda Monday morning, and we'll see how we go from there. So
yeah,
anyway, Joey rang them up Monday morning and give them permission to give me his bikes. You know, I ring Honda up, and they say, right, fine, that's brilliant, Philip. We'd love to have you on board, all the rest, but don't forget you've got a Kawasaki contract.
Oh, jeez.
yeah,
Oh, the spanner in the
yeah,
works.
Spanner in the works, you know.
Yeah.
So go, Jesus. I thought, right, I better think this one out. I goes, boys, don't worry about that. I'll sort that out. They go, well, you better. And you've got 10 days to do it, you know,
right,
because this
yeah,
was Monday morning and we were leaving the Friday fortnight to go to the TT, you know.
Yeah.
wow,
We go, right. So anyway, lucky I had a very good solicitor, you know. We won't go into names or details. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but she was a lady solicitor who was very, very good. And Tuesday morning, my girlfriend actually at that time was a legal secretary. So
right,
my
yeah,
girlfriend worked on the solicitor. So I had all the inside stuff to make this work. And she gets the best letter in the world off to Kawasaki, you know. And really, you know, the bikes weren't competitive. You know, everything that was in the contract wasn't working.
Yeah.
So she put it all together. And by Friday, we got a letter back from Kawasaki releasing me from the contract,
Oh,
you know.
happy days.
yeah.
So, of course, I give Honda a copy of that, and that was the start of our relationship with Honda. And the rest
Jeez.
was
Yeah.
What
history.
what what a decent thing for Joey Dunlop to do though, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not everyone in that situation would do the same thing because, you know, I presume you'd always be it'll be always in the back of your mind, well, geez, this lad's gonna, you know, could this lad outshine me now or will I ever get them back? Or, you know, it was
Well, I
something that
think, as we know, Joey was pretty badly injured then. You know, I can't
yeah,
remember all his injuries, but they were pretty bad. So he probably didn't think he'd be back, you know, too quick either. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was helping a young Irish lad, a young boy who he'd raced
Oh,
with every
yeah,
week, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
So what happened then? Joey had a trick Formula One coming for the TT, the latest spec one. That bike went to Hizzy, and then
yeah.
Hizzy's RC30 went to me, and then I had a new 600, Joey's 250, and Joey's 125. So there I was off to the TT with new Joey's 125, Joey's 250, my own 600, and Steve Hislop 750. So the pressure was on.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, yeah. And then so that what year are we talking there? That was 1889,
89,
was it?
89.
1989.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was your first time then to ride the NC, was it? You
Yeah.
hadn't,
First
yeah.
time ever. Well, the year before, at the end of the year before, a great man who you know, Winston McAdoo.
Mm.
So Winston
Mac-
McAdoo at
That's
the end of
McAdoo Racing, is it?
McAdoo Racing, yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
he had bought an RC30, which was going to be the bike, and Winston had given me a ride. I think it was at Kyrgyzstan on his RC30, but that's all I'd really ever done. I rode an RC30 at Kyrgyzstan. I think I can't remember, and I'd have to check up on my 750 Kawasaki. I can't really remember racing it anywhere much, or I can't remember. I'd need to check, but basically, I'd never raced a 750 before this. So my first F1 TT was on a 750 RC30 that I'd never seen in my life before or rode. You know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
it's a bit like
that was a huge step up then. Like that, I think I heard you saying before that was one of the biggest moments of like transitions in power for you to go, holy shit, this thing is
Yeah,
unbelievable. Like,
yeah. Well, you're right. It was holy shit. All right. First I went down Bray Hill. Obviously I was a good 250 rider and 350 and 125, but a 750, this thing's the most like powerful thing in the world then. And I
yeah,
thought, how am I ever going to stop this? How am I going to work out how to stop this? How am I going to work out anything? So I remember going down Bray Hill, the first lap, 1989, shitting myself, thinking, what's going to happen? Like, don't forget, I only ever done the Manx Grand Prix in '88, so now I'm on an F1 bike, his old bike, to try and go down Bray Hill. Oh.
yeah,
oh yeah.
So I remember when I hit the bottom of it, I thought, oh my God. And then there was lots of hard times because trying to get that bike right, because of course some of my opposition was trying to give me advice what to do and what not to do. And one guy told me, no, you need to put loads of rebound damping on the rear shock because of the power of these things, and which is shit now, but I didn't know at the time. Goes like with the power of these bikes, you need plenty of rebound damping because it'll go down, it'll come back too quick, and all this sort of stuff. And I was pretty clever with suspension and all because
yeah,
Maggie, I'm an engineer by trade. I'm a stainless steel aluminium fabricator, a mechanical engineer. That's my real trade for 12 years. So I understand things.
yeah,
And but anyway, so I goes down Bray Hill with this compression dampen full on the rear shock of my RC30. Well, when it goes down, doesn't it stick down? It can't get back up again. So I'm now going up Aggo's Leap, but this back shock fully absorbed, stuck down, and this front wheel trying to get in the air. So it goes everywhere. So I think I was about maybe the second lap or third lap, whatever. So I think I'm going to be killed riding this thing.
yeah,
So there was definitely some working out to do. So that week would have been the toughest week in my life. Trying to ride an RC30, work out how it works out. I'm a 250, 125, 250, and 600. So it was tough. It was tough. So the results weren't where they should have been. But it was tough. But it didn't matter. Honda didn't care because don't forget that Foggy there, that Hizzy there, that Brian
yeah,
Morrison there, and they had Roger Burnett there. So they didn't need me.
yeah.
There was other riders as well. So they'd done right. They did tell me, look, just ride round and get used to it because they had enough other people to win who did win.
Yeah, but it's in fairness, like it was a relationship that lasted, a long time
Mm.
after that with yourself and Honda. But just going back to that, like obviously you grew up, you're Portadown, I think, is where,
Yes,
where you grew up, kind of farming. You grew up doing a bit of farming, and you had a post office and stuff like that. Um,
yes. My
and then
grand. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and then you obviously you had a passion for bikes at a young age. You used to race bicycles, I believe, from a young age.
Yes, I love two wheels. We were farmers really because my granda Jemmy, he had a big farm up in Balnock, and then in Laurel Vale, little town, we had the shop. So there we had the grocery shop, the post office, the grocery, the post office, and the butchers. So from a young lad, I've been learning how to cut meat and cut vegetables and do everything. And
Yeah.
then we had a couple of milk trucks and a grocery van. You remember the grocery vans from years ago?
Yeah, yeah, I do
So
actually. Yeah,
So
yeah,
from 5 years old, I was brought up weighing potatoes and working out tea and sugar, and then I would be delivering. I was sort of 5 years old when I started delivering milk, carrying milk bottles, and then I got a little bit older. I went in the grocery van a few times, but yeah, so it was really we were just brought up country boys where
yeah,
you worked. It was
yeah.
all I knew.
But there was no, there was no other members of the family that were into motorbike racing. Like, had you anyone to, lean on for a bit of advice back in the early stages? Like,
Nothing,
nothing.
nobody. And I only really learned out later. My father died. My father died of multiple sclerosis when I was only 9.
Oh,
So I
Jesus.
was very young,
Yeah,
and I had 2 brothers. So he died and left my mom with 3 of us to look after.
yeah,
But it was only later years that I learned my dad had a motorbike, and he had a sort of motorcycle crash where he became blind in one eye. My
Jesus.
dad was
Yeah,
a joiner, a carpenter. He was.
yeah.
And so, but it was only in later years I found out my dad loved bikes and that. But really, there was nobody in our house. But like when I was, 10, 11, I loved push bikes. I started to race push bikes. So from when I was 11, 12 until I was 15, 16, I used to race push bikes. So I just loved 2 wheels and going as fast as I could.
You were fairly good at it too, I believe.
Well, I tried, it was, I showed potential. And
Yeah, yeah.
I remember like I was 15 and I'd be training with the adults. So, putting that in perspective now, that was pretty good for a young 15-year-old lad to be training with the adults.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I would ride every day and ride at the weekend. And, I think the club, which was the Craigavon Velos years ago, they seen potential in this young lad to come along and race. So I started to race and be competitive. And then I got my first 50cc bike. It was first one was an AP50, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought, and I got my license, so I stopped racing. I just disappeared from the bicycle scene, and I remember for weeks they were ringing and ringing and trying to contact me, and we didn't have a phone at home, so the only phone that could get you on was the grocery shop in Laurel Vale. So, uh, but
Yeah. Once you got the feeling of pulling a throttle instead of having to pedal, you were like, that's it.
Jesus, I always wanted to go faster. So to do this and go fast was 100 times better than having to paddle to go fast. It was just like on hills, you could go up a hill like on a bicycle. It's hard work up a hill. So
Yeah.
that day, I was just that day, the very first night, I got my license 22nd of September at 1 minute past 12. I was out riding. The bike was full of petrol. I just rode that bike all night until there's no petrol left, and then came home. You
That's
know,
unreal. Yeah, yeah. So
that was
it was obviously something that was in you. It was ingrained in you, whether you got it from your late father, but it was something that which I do believe it's in you. I think it's especially when you get to the likes of your level and skill level and stuff, it's something that's in not everybody can do what you and the likes of you, racers have done. So it's obviously something that's deep bred inside you.
yeah. I just loved it. You know what I mean? And so I loved bikes, and so I kept on riding bikes. Then I got a 175, and then I got a 250, and then my last bike was a GS 1000.
Wow.
But I was a bit of a lunatic, really. Like every morning going to work, I was sort of like there was a bunch of us mad bikers around Tandragee, Laurel Vale, and
Yeah.
we were just everywhere flat out on bikes all the time. One of my riding partners, well, two really, when I was young, when I got my 50, was Wolsey Coulter. I don't know if you remember Wolsey, who raced, and Mark Farmer. They
Oh,
would have
yeah,
been
yeah.
would have
Yeah.
been all
Well,
50cc riders at the time, just riding the wheels off these things, crashing them, sliding up the road, pick them up, away you go again. You
yeah.
didn't know any better. And
Yeah.
so I progressed on, and my last bike was a GS 1000. But I sort of wised up then. I worked in an engineering company which I loved, and every morning going to work, I had hit if my bike didn't read 140 mile an hour somewhere, there was something that was a bad morning going to work. And we've got corners where you tip this bike into one corner in particular, and you tip it in, and you'd look like we're talking about 100 mile an hour. And you look down to see the sparks coming off the exhaust. So like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so think how far you must have been over
Yeah.
on old tires. Like now we're talking 50 years ago. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
45. So this was, I knew I'm going to die one day. This was just getting beyond a joke. One morning I had a herd of cows going to work.
Jesus.
That was, just I come around a corner and the cows were there and the bike was sliding up the road and sandwiches everywhere. It was,
Jesus
and
Christ.
anyway,
I feel for your poor mother. Your poor mother must have been up the
she's
walls.
Mum's 85 now, and she still tells
85.
I never slept for 20 years. When that Phillip of ours was racing, I never slept. Not one Saturday night did I sleep in 20 years, you know. And
Oh God,
so
Jesus
it's
Christ.
true. But so anyway, I thought, right, I've got to stop this because this was getting beyond a joke. In the wet, I'd be like, in the snow, we'd be racing cars. In the wet, it'd be like I'd be just sliding this thing sideways in the wet, passing cars on the main road, bzzz, just a spin, then flick it the other way. You know, it was like,
Jesus
it was
Christ.
a lot.
Oh my God.
It was a drug, you know, that, you
Yeah.
know, you can see what happens. People and young lads in their cars were not as much now as you remember years ago. You got your car and you put wheels on it and you tuned it and you done everything. Well, we done that with bikes. So there was an accident waiting to happen. It was
Yeah,
going to happen.
yeah.
So there's another beautiful one. Well, I won't go into that one where the postman went straight through the hedge trying to miss me. You know, it was like, but
Oh, go deep into it.
the the little post van. So I'm going to work one morning, and I come down the road, and there's a place called Burke's who sell Ford tractors, and there used to be a beautiful humpback bridge. Well, you could do that one at 100 mile an hour, you know.
Yeah.
So I come up, the bike's straight up in the air like this, but there's a left hand corner after it. It
Oh,
was worse
jeez.
then.
Yeah.
So I would just put this thing up, tip it over like this, and go round the left hand at 100 mile an hour in the back wheel. You know, no problem.
No bother.
This, this was every day I go to work, no problem. So
Yeah.
it wasn't Posty coming the other way, right? This was There was a bit of a sort of a rule really that the farmers and their cows, they would go early in the morning. That's how I hit the herd of cows. They would be away for like I'd leave for work at 8 in the morning, but at 7:30 the local farmer would have his cows, and it was all timed out beautiful that the roads were clear for me at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
What happened? The farmer quickly, we'll go back to the Postie. So what happened to him was he got caught by the milkman. You know, the milkman comes in the tanker to collect the milk.
Aye.
So the farmer, he was caught by the milkman talking for half an hour, right? So 7:30, he was caught talking to 8 o'clock. He then brings the cows up the road at 8 o'clock because he's late. And who's coming down the road with this nutter McCallen on his back? It was going to be a crash, wasn't it? You know,
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
timing was out of sync. So that's what
Gosh.
happened about the cows.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was, a year before this. We're now getting it all right, and everybody knows it was just a clear road, flat out. So anyway, I come over the bridge. She's up on the back wheel, and Posty is just right in the middle of the right hand kink.
Oh, jeez.
I watch his face, right? I watch it so clear because I'm sitting smiling. My bike's right up. I'm looking down on him, and Posty's looking up at the underside of this GS 1000 coming like this with four pipes hanging out of it. Well, what does he think? He thinks I'm coming straight across the road into him, you know. And I remember seeing his face and watching him, and he was like hanging on to the steering wheel, and I'm sort of smiling because I know where I'm going. I didn't even leave a quarter of my side of the road, you know, because I'd done it every morning. It was perfect, you know. And well,
Oh my God.
Posty, he thinks I'm coming, doesn't he? This
Yeah.
boy's coming into my van. So he swings the steering wheel of his van, right?
Yeah.
He goes through the hedge, but there's about, I don't know, a 10-foot drop on the other side of it, isn't there? So there's Posty. You've never seen anything like it in your life. He's pure white, right?
Yeah.
He's pure white. I can see his knuckles swinging on the wheel, and he's now gone through the hedge, and the van is. I didn't see the result of it, but the van now is going on the side next, isn't it, down into the field.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So,
Oh.
oh, so what do we do here? So anyway, I did think about him for a couple of minutes. Posty, what happened, Posty?
Yeah.
Want to go to work? Well, I have that much excitement every morning going to work that I'd forgot about Posty in the next 2 miles, you know.
Yeah.
And it was about a 10-mile trip to work, you know. So I get into work, I work away all day, and I love my engineering, my work, so I'm happy I'm working away. You forget about everything, don't you? The world's gone again.
Yeah.
I'm at work, and I come home. So all them times in them early days, we used to go back to the shop for our tea. Tea was my aunt's big house, and she cooked tea for everyone.
Yeah.
So we were still, my mom was still working there, and my dad was dead. So me and my other brother used to go back there for our tea at 5 o'clock at night when I was home from work, 5:30.
Yeah.
Well, Uncle Ivan, he was my mom's brother. And he was like our father figure in the house. So when my dad died, Uncle Ivan was, when he looked at you and spoke, you done it. He was Uncle Ivan, the biggest respect in the world for him. He was the boss. He was like my dad, but he was mom's brother, you know?
Yes.
So I come into the shop through the front door, and Uncle Ivan never gets excited, never does that. He goes, right in the back.
Oh shit.
I go, he goes, it was you, it was you, it was you. I know it was you. And I'm going, what? You done it, you done it. I goes, what, Uncle Ivan? He goes, you put the postman through the hedge. And
Shit.
shit is right. So he was fuming, So what had happened, that was 3 miles up the road. So the postman then was late. Everybody, postmen are on time, right? There is no post. They have to send another van out because
Shit.
Postie's van's now wrecked. Don't forget, we had the post office. So the
Oh.
postie came to our post office to collect the post as well. So the knock on effect is everything's running late.
Chaos.
And the whole world's talking about why they had no post and our post wasn't collected. Oh, so
A chain of events. There was no getting away from that one. He knew who it was
what?
anyway.
Don't you ever do that again?
Yeah.
It wasn't even the fact that I could have been killed. It was like the whole post in the townland was destroyed up there.
But the
And
thing is, yourself, like
Yeah.
when you're 20 years of age, you're bulletproof. It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
and,
just
and the and the post doesn't matter a shit, does it? When you're 20,
exactly. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah,
You
yeah,
couldn't care less about the post at that
and
stage.
yeah,
You were
yeah,
just having
yeah.
fun. And it's funny,
uh,
you were actually like, so where you grew up you would be like right nearly on the Tandragee circuit. So
yes, my mom's house where I lived is like, I think it's not even, I say, a mile from Marley Coo Corner.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
we used to go there and watch as kids because my uncle, we had two farms. My uncle Joe's farm was still is on the Tandragee 100 course, though Joe's not with us now. His boys have it. And the other farm was up the road another like 3 or 4 miles. So
Okay.
we used to go to Uncle Joe's and we would hang over the wall. We were young, like, 12, 13, 14. We would hang over Joe's wall and watch all the racers going by.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
from a young age, I was watching the Tandragee 100, but like I remember never ever thought that I would be racing at the Tandragee 100 because that was, to a little country boy then, that was international. That was like, that was world stuff. You know,
Huge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Joey Dunlop raced there. If you got a Sunday paper, Joey Dunlop was in the back of the Sunday paper, and maybe even in black and white, he was on TV. So it
Oh,
was like,
Yeah.
so the Tandragee 100 looked like international in them days.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then like obviously jumping forward a few years, then obviously where we left off, getting going to the Isle of Man and racing, with Team Honda. Like there's a fair period in the middle there. So you've obviously, you'd started off and you're racing and worked your way up. You're obviously, there's no doubt you were skilled on the bike, although the postman might disagree. But
Thank God the poor man's dead now, but I think his family still know about it.
oh Jesus, yeah, that's one of those local legends. That's unbelievable. So as I said, the relationship was set in stone with Honda then, and then sure it just kind of went from strength to strength really after that. I know there was some tough times and a couple of bad injuries, of course, along the way as well. But it was a match made in heaven.
Yeah, it was good. We had some great, great races as results show, but it wasn't easy either. You know what I mean? And then so we had the winning years in Ireland, and then I moved to England where we just never got the break we needed in the short circuit scene. So I went to the World Thunder Bikes then on 600 where I got a lot of experience, and then came back to the UK where I'd been fighting for the lead in the British 600 Championship. But really, what happened in the 750? RC30s were out of date. So when I moved to the UK in 92 to race British superbikes,
Mhm.
the RC30 was done. The year before, Simon Crafer rode the bike that they gave me for the next year, but they were like 2 and 3 years out of date. Yamahas were winning, the Kawasaki was winning, and so I was really beating my head off a wall, to start off with, and then RC45s came out, And the first year in racing, which I was on an RC45, was a disaster. The bike just worldwide, it didn't matter which, it just was not competitive in the racing scene, and it took development and development. And it was a great bit of engineering, but to be honest, it wasn't a great bike. And anyone who rides it will tell you that, the factory stuff was almost perfect, but everything below that just wasn't right. So I was just in superbikes at the wrong time. But I could take that bike. So really, you can more or less, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
employed
yeah.
then for my road
And
racing.
it's a lot of it's just luck as well, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yes, just the right bike at the right time, and that was it. So really, the people that rode the RC30 knows, like, to win road races on that bike, to do the road race winning I did on the RC30 and RC45 required a lot of skill, because there was really nobody in the worldwide circuit scene doing the same stuff. The factory RC45s were winning, but that was it. That was whenever Foggy was there. What did you call him? John Kaczynski was
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
winning that, and Aaron Slight and Doug Poland and Scott Russell was there too. No, Doug Poland wasn't. Scott Russell was there. Aaron Slight. So them boys were even like getting it tough in the world scene on the best factory bikes. So look, it was a good bit of engineering, but it wasn't the race bike that it was supposed to be. But look, I had a good time. I won my races, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously up through the years, then you rode with Honda until, was it 1996? I think, was that?
So I joined Honda in 89 then.
Yeah.
Uh, I came through lovely 95, 96, 97, 98. And then in 98, I broke my back at Thruxton. And it was like really, it was going to be 96, 97. I'd won TTs, seniors and Formula One TTs.
Hmm.
But the RC30 was out of date. So they built me then. I was leaving Honda. There was lots of rows in between stuff, but I was riding beyond to win those races. Those races weren't easy. And because the bike wasn't competitive, the RC45 was out of date. So for 1998, um, I done a deal with Honda. We managed a deal where I had a full blown Formula One bike built for to win the TT and all the rest of my stuff. But then what happened in 1988, 98,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, I broke my back at Thruxton in the Super Sports 600 race.
Hmm.
So I never ever got to ride the full factory spec bike that I got. So what happened at that time in 98, Michael Rutter and Ian Simpson rode for V&M. Well,
Hmm.
V&M fell out with Honda. So basically what happened is a long story, but there was two riders with no bikes, Michael Rutter and Ian Simpson, because V&M was gone. And there was a rider, McCallen, with had all the bikes. So I had a broken back. I'm now in hospital after Thruxton. And I had I had all my bikes. So we done a deal with Honda that Simpson and Rutter would ride my bikes and I would manage the team when I got out of hospital. So we had a great time. We won Northwest, we won TTs. And then after that, there was a little bit of tension in Honda. I was in the UK and Rutter and Simo were riding on my bikes.
Yeah.
Uh, so we fell out. At the end of 98, we fell out. That was just it. We're not going into all the politics of it. And up until that time, I had a real good relationship with Honda because I also worked with Honda Research R&D in Japan,
Yeah.
which I done that. I started that in 1990 with Dave Hancock, and one of my best roles there was I was the main test rider on the Fireblade that came out in 1992. I was riding that
Jeez.
bike 2 years
Yeah, I
before that.
remember that. Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah,
way, I didn't know that. Are you serious?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
remember
I
motorcycle news and that thing on that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was the main test rider on that Fireblade. And what happened really was Mr. Baba, who was the project leader, that
Yeah.
was his bike. So they had American test riders, European test riders, and obviously Japanese test riders. And what was happening really, the bike was becoming, as we know, the Fireblade when that bike came out in 92 was years ahead of everything else.
Yeah.
That was your first super bike. And so what happened really was the bike was better than the riders. That's just the long and short of it, all the
Okay.
test riders. So Dave Hancock was the main UK project leader from Honda UK. He was mixed up in all the R&D projects, and so they needed a better rider. So good old Dave puts his neck in the line. He goes, "I've got the rider. Right, who have you got?" "I've got this lad McCallen." So I hadn't won a TT since then, but I'd won up in 90. I'd won everything else. And what I'd done in 1990, I'd competed in the World F1 Cup, which was going to be a replacement for the World F1 that was dropped.
Yeah.
I was riding that for Honda. That was my job, really, was to ride road races in the world scene when Joey Dunlop was going to stop. But anyway, so Dave says, "I've got the boy for it, McCallen. He rides TTs, he rides Northwest, he's a winner, and he understands mechanical things." So he invited me to go to, I think the first test we done was in Assen. So I go there and I see this Fireblade. Now, it looked nothing like today's because it was a grubby looking aluminium scruffy frame and these black dirty fairings on it, because all the testing, that testing done at Assen was the most secretive in the world because they had security right round that. This was like, don't forget, this was the bike that was going to recreate superbikes in the world and it's Honda's top project.
Yeah.
So we had it in Europe. That's the first place I rode it, at Assen. And so we had, when I went there, I was invited in my nice clean gear, all my stuff. And there was about, I don't know, 6 or 8 40-foot trucks full of spurs, bikes, everything. And when we were testing for the whole day, there was security right round the whole place to keep, pressing all away from it. I didn't realize that then, but that's what it was all about. And we also had the opposition bikes. We had, whatever Suzuki was the opposition, whatever Yamaha was the opposition. Kawasaki didn't have one. So we had all the bikes that was the opposition to what the Fireblade was going to be.
Yeah.
And that was my first time working with Honda R&D in Japan and on that bike. And then I won't bore you with the whole story of it all, but it became a world famous bike. And
yeah.
I continued working with Honda R&D right through to 1998. So I had a really good relationship with them.
Yeah.
And that was why also, we're all over the place here, but that was why when the production race came back to the TT in 1996 and I was on a Fireblade, I had to win that. Because don't forget, I'm the boy that developed this Fireblade 4 years before that.
Yeah. No pressure there, right? You couldn't really blame. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So you can see why I didn't have a choice than to win that first production TT in 96 on the Fireblade. Yeah. And I was on the line and Mr. Baba was there and we're sitting ready to go. And he goes, Phillip San. I goes, "Yeah, Mr. Baba." He goes, good luck, have a good ride." I goes, "Thank you." It's all on camera and the thing, because it's just back a bit from when we're going onto the line.
Yeah.
And he goes, "But," I goes, "Yeah, Mr. Baba, thank you." He goes, "But Phillip San, you must win." And
no pressure.
I goes, "No problem," because I was going to do that anyway. It's quite cocky, wasn't it? But so anyway, that was it. There's a long story how that bike wasn't right before that, but it doesn't matter. So I had to win that for Mr. Baba in 96, and then I went back in 97, won it again. 98, I'd have broken back. We'll get back to the original story. So 98 then ended my Honda relationship, and I worked for the biggest retail company in Europe at the time, Motorcycle City. You remember the blue bikes and that?
Yeah.
Well, we had like 22 shops throughout the UK, and we were everybody's biggest customer. Everybody, Honda, Yamaha. We had 13 franchises in those shops, and we sold thousands of bikes. Well, anyway, Motorcycle City was Honda's biggest customer. So that worked good for those years whenever I was on a Honda City Fireblade and all, because it was promoting Motorcycle City, who was Honda's biggest customer, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But we were also Yamaha's biggest customer. And for sort of years, I'd always been friendly with Yamaha and talked to them, but I was their biggest problem. Back 95, 96, 97, McCallen, was McCallen on his Honda.
Yeah.
So in 98, the end of 98, when we done the deal, they were glad I'd signed my Yamaha deal, right?
Okay.
So this was like, for me, it was just like a dream come through, because by this time, the Fireblade is now, this is 99, is 7 years old. Yeah. So it's getting out of date, as we know. The CBR was getting out of date. the Hondas really were at the end of that lifespan with those bikes.
Yeah.
And as you remember, like the R1 with David Jeffries. So R1s had just come in with this 1000cc bike that could win races, right? We had R6s that were winning races every week and beating the
Mhm.
CBR, and they had other bikes as well. So I signed a Yamaha deal. So
They were the first R ones. That was was that the
uh,
5JJ or something? Did they call it?
98 was the first one, and then this was 99. So we had the second one, which was probably just the same bike,
Yeah.
tweaked a little bit. So I was the happiest person in the world that I'd signed my Yamaha deal. Motorcycle City. I was working for them then. They said, "There's no problem, Philip. You can work with us on race bikes," because they were getting. You probably remember Blue Bikes ever. They were getting maximum publicity out of this all,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it was really good. I signed my Yamaha deal in '99. I had an R1 production bike. I had my R1 F1 bike, which was everything done to that. That bike was everything. In fact, when I finished with that bike that year, when Winston McAdoo bought it for Rand Farquhar,
Oh
and
yeah.
Rand raced that same bike for about 4 years. You
No
know,
way. You serious? Yeah.
that's how good it was in '99. So
Jeez.
I had my R6, which was like the bee's knees. I had my F1 bike, and I had my production R1. So in my little heart, I also wanted to teach Honda a lesson. Like, who's me?
Yeah.
Little Johnny.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I had won all these races for Honda, and sort of some senior people in Honda would have led me to believe, well, you couldn't do this without Honda.
Yes.
There was a fallout, but it doesn't matter. So I went to Yamaha, and I wanted to prove I could do this on a Yamaha as well, because I was good enough. My results show that. And the R1 and the R6 were beating the Hondas. So there was no reason I shouldn't win.
Yes.
We had a good start to the year. We put a lot of work into. Don't forget, we've changed everything now. All our spurs, all our bikes, everything. Honda had to go out, and Yamaha come in. Such a massive, massive changeover. The bikes were everything was so different, and so we started off. We had getting all this ready, and the bikes all set up. Everything. The bikes were fast, brilliant. So we done the some. I'm not sure. We must have done a couple of British rounds to get the feel of the bikes get going, and then the Tandragee 100 one came along. So the first time we ever my F1 was wheeled out was out of the back of the van, the Tandragee 100. You know,
Jesus. Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
was my practice for the Northwest, which was the next week or 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So I got things weren't just perfect, but anyway, I managed to win. If I finished second in the first big race at Tandragee and won whatever I won. I finished second on a first in the 1,000, but it was there just to get the feel of the bike and learn all about it. So that was brilliant for a first time out on that bike. And the next day, I was racing Tandragee on the Saturday, and I had to go back to England for the Sunday for a British round to race my production bike. So I was learning these bikes everywhere, doing all the riding I could. So I went to Donington Park to race my production Fireblade in the race, and I got knocked off. Right, I got knocked off, and I remember the guy hit me right on my shoulder blade. Right, the black mark is still on the leathers; they're still hanging up in my shop.
Yeah.
And so I remember what a dig, but I felt that was some pain, unreal. But what happened in 1992 at Daytona, uh, when I was racing there, I had a massive crash, and I broke that shoulder clean off. And
That
I
was
took,
the hit the barrier.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
took the shoulder blade right off my back,
Oh
right,
my God, man.
in '92, and it never really had recovered right since that. But saying that, '92, after that, 6 weeks later, I came back and I won 5 Northwests, and I went on to win 2 TTs. So we
Wasn't
still
too
got on, but it
bad.
was. But anyway, this was painful, but you forget about it and keep going. And in the first race on the Saturday at the Northwest, the shoulder blade popped right off my back.
Oh my God, the
So
pain
what
of that.
happened? Whenever that boy had hit me in the back, he'd hit the shoulder blade. I just moved it enough to loosen the muscles again.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And so in the first race, whatever it was at the Northwest, on my Yamahas, it's just the pain was unreal. So I was talking to good old Fred McSorley, and we didn't know it had popped off then, but actually I felt it because I was coming down the Metropole, and there was this bang, like a stone hit you right in the thing.
Yeah.
I thought, Jesus, that's sore, you know. and it was sore, and something wasn't working right, but I didn't know what it was. At that, then on the brakes, what had happened? That's where the shoulder blade had just ripped the muscles and popped off.
My God.
So so I raced the rest of that Northwest that day. Fred gave me
I just go
injection.
I just go back to that point there. You raced the rest of that there with your shoulder blade popped off.
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ. They don't make them like they used to.
I had a few painkillers to get it right,
Mm,
and I think I had some morphine injection, whatever. But it was legal because Fred McSorley done it legal to keep me. So I raced the rest of the day. I don't think I had any wins at seconds and thirds, but that was absolutely brilliant for me with one hand because I had only one arm working. So to finish second and third at the Northwest with one arm working is pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
yep,
And
absolutely.
so, uh, 1 second, I think something's happened this here.
You're
Is
right.
that, are we okay?
You're
Yeah,
good.
what's going
Right.
on? Yeah, yeah.
You're
I
good,
don't know
yeah.
what happened there. So,
Yeah.
so to finish seconds and thirds against, like, we're talking about David Jeffries, Jim Moody, Ian
Yeah.
Simpson, all the boys on Yamahas as well. So at this, I knew, right, I'm going to the TT. This is only the second time I've ever rode these bikes. I'm going to be competitive.
Mhm.
But they had this stupid shoulder injury, something to worry about. And anyway, we know then what's happened with it. The shoulder blade has came loose and it's moving about. And we do all sorts of hyperbaric stuff, do all the charms, the people who give you charms for fixing your neck and back.
Yeah.
And,
Light
uh,
candles and all that jazz.
anything that I could do to
Yeah.
get to the TT. So I went to the TT, sort of feeling half good.
Mhm.
And so what we had though, we had this bandage, we had a crossover bandage on, cross here to hold the shoulder blade in the back.
Mhm.
So we've now got the shoulder blade. We believe it's stuck back on again, and we've got these bandages to help keep it on.
Mhm.
So it's feeling pretty good, pretty good stuff. And so in practice, I take it easy. So we're trying to get the bikes right, get the right. Not we take it easy as half throttle, but being careful just to save the body because this is still recovering, we think. And I can't remember how practice went, but I wasn't too worried, I don't think. And then the F1 race started on the Saturday, and I got a big slide at the Black Dub, which the exact same place I got in '97 on my RC45
Mhm.
on the thing, and it just yanked it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just it was enough. So
Human.
I've been smooth and I've been good up this point, but when this bike tried to fire me off, the yank just ripped it
Pop
out.
it.
Uh,
Oh my God.
so
Jesus.
it was just like, oh my God, you've never felt pain like it in your life. I
Yeah.
think I don't think I even finished that race. I think I pulled in. The pain was so bad, and that's not me.
Yeah.
And so we pull in and we reassess everything. Right, we're finished. It's all over before it even starts. And I think I pulled out of the next couple of races to try and get strength built back up. Or I might have tried the 600 race. I don't even know now. And so it went on. And then I saved all the energy I could for Friday for the production race, not the senior because I wasn't fit to do it. I think I finished third in the production race on the Friday and off we go home. But then it's whenever you find out I couldn't get the bikes to handle, I couldn't ride them, I couldn't do anything. And it's doing my head in why it was. But what had happened was by us taping this shoulder blade to the back, all the work was going through this joint here, right? The
Oh,
shoulder joint. Well,
yep.
Yes, he did, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was starting to pull apart, wasn't it? So while that was pulling apart, it was stretching the nerves. I didn't realize what was happening. I'd be sitting at the thing with a cup, and the cup would just fall on the floor. What happened there? You know, and this would happen when we're going home from the TT. The boys give me the bike to hold. I was holding the bike by the seat, and then the bike fell over. They go, "What are you doing?" I didn't realize I was losing feeling in my left hand.
Oh shit. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like, what is going wrong here? I would just be dropping. I'd be taking a coffee and I would just fall on the floor.
Yeah.
What? And you thought you were holding it. And that's what had been happening at the TT, and I didn't know. I thought I was holding this bag and steering it, but there had been no power going through this arm at all, you know.
Jesus
And
Christ.
so when we get home, it's a couple of weeks later, I'm racked, exhausted. So we go to the doctors and the hospital and these specialists all, a couple of weeks later. and they work out what's wrong. The nerves had got stretched in this joint because we taped the shoulder blade so tight to the back that this poor shoulder was just pulling apart, So
Yeah.
at that time, you've got a choice to make, what do you do here? So we said, right, well, we have to stop racing because this is going to take nerves. If you don't look after them, if you let the nerves get severed or anything,
Yeah.
it's all over.
It's all over.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
and nerves can heal to a certain amount. Nerves can heal if there's, if they don't get ripped apart, they can sort of heal a bit and get
Yeah.
going, whatever. So that's it. We have to take at least 6 months off, to stop here. And then during that time, just to say, that's it. I don't need to race anymore. What I wanted to do, as you said earlier, I wanted to win 5 TTs. The day and hour I had won 5 TTs, I just stood up and said, done. I'm
Done.
happy. I've done
Yeah.
all I wanted to do. I'm quitting. But I went back 90, 6, I won 4. I went back in 97, I won 3. That should have been 5. I went back in 98 with a broken back, didn't get any. I went back in 99 to win on my Yamahas. So just give up.
What wasn't meant to be. Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to be. And you've got to go sometimes like this wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And
And I think as well, I suppose, like, the longer you're doing it, the more races you do, the odds are stacking up against you. I suppose, to be fair, isn't it?
yeah, well, in road racing, you could say that, couldn't you?
Yeah, to be fair,
Absolutely, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, like, what, giving up is the wrong word to use there, anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because what you conquered in your racing
Yeah.
career is nothing short of absolutely miraculous. Like, you're joining a very small list of people that have accomplished anything like that, to be fair.
Well, thank you. But I loved it. But I knew, well, my results and my speed sort of proved I was fit to win 5 TTs,
Yeah.
but just didn't. And that's where you need luck. You need everything going with you. You could have the best skill in the world and everything, but you just need a wee bit of luck as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I'm
And
sure, like, I'm sure, had the shoulder have held in place, and there wasn't the issue. There was, it was there to be proven that it was Phillip McCallen. It wasn't the bike. It was the rider.
yeah,
No, to be fair, like, I think there's nobody would be disputing that. So that was kind of it. That was it wrapped up as regards to racing
yeah.
career. So that must have been a serious bit of to try a lifestyle change, I suppose, to flip it around. Like, obviously, I know you've been still involved in biking, usually, but not actually racing. That must have been a big,
I think I'm very, very lucky also, and I'll say that, right? I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to be here and lucky to, 1 second, boys.
right.
Yeah,
Little,
no problem.
a low power button's coming up there, a button saying, uh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
with that many gadgets here, I don't know what that low power was on, but uh, it was I'm very, very lucky. I've had a great career and I loved it, and I'm still walking, talking, and got all my arms and legs.
Yeah.
So, and it was sort of easier than most people would have because by this time I'm working for Motorcycle City. I'm a general manager there in after sales. So I've got a good job in the motorcycle industry.
Yeah.
Motorcycle City is mixed up in racing as well, was until that point. I had a good relationship with the Honda people that was left that I had a relationship with.
Yeah.
And also what I'd started to do was a little bit of media work. I always tried to work with the TV boys and the radio boys while I was racing, pretty good. So they then sort of invited me to come along and start, working on the media end of stuff, the TV and radio.
Mm.
And then I ended up also, which I still do to today, I am working for the tourist board in the Isle of Man. I work for them boys a couple of weeks during the TT, and I'm back again now for the classic TT to work for them.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really lucky. I'm still mixed up in the middle of motorbike racing, but I don't have the risk.
I know, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. But
You
it's
know,
nice. It must be nice though to be able to look back on a career of road racing that you've had and still be part of it in a different way, but still to be a part of it. Like we see on BBC and doing the commentating and stuff like that, and even getting to meet the riders, like a very good friend of ours, Kevin Keys. I know you know Kevin and you've seen him, but it must be great in another way to see the next generation progressing and be able to follow them and give them pointers and stuff.
it is good, you know what I mean? And you want to sort of say a lot of stuff more, but look, I'm I'm getting old now, and all these young guys have their own ideas and their own plans. So I just stare at it. I watch them. If you can give someone a wee bit of genuine advice, it's great. But look, yeah, you're just watching them coming up, and there's we have some good riders out there, and it's great to see it. But to be working with, so really, in race meetings, I'm working with the organisers, I'm working with the riders, and I'm working with the media. So, what better job could you get? And the risk, a 200-mile-an-hour crash isn't going to happen. The worst I'll get now is a slap on the ear for saying the wrong thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well,
100%,
a
without a
slap,
shadow of a doubt.
a slap on the ear is nothing like getting slapped off a wall, is it? So
No, no, you take the slap in the air, 100%.
yeah.
Do you think we'll see a return to a bit of racing down the Republic next year? Have you heard much about that?
I haven't heard. There is, well, I do be talking to people, of course,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of people who want some racing back in the south,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and I think if the right people get together, there's enough enthusiasm down there, as you know, and there's
mm,
enough clubs to run road racing to make it happen. So I
absolutely.
hope I hope it does, and I don't know who the right people is, but I just
Mhm.
hope the right people can get in at the right place to make it happen. And
Yeah,
we need to work closely together. I said this to all the clubs up here. I said everyone, we must work closer together because we're not strong enough. Each little club isn't strong enough to do everything. Whereas
absolutely.
if we could just pull the clubs together to work better together, there still is an interest, because you look at the Tandragee 100, the support it's got. Look at Armoy, the support it gets, the Cookstown 100. We had our classic festival, as you know, last weekend. That
Yeah,
was, you know, well, I'm going to say that's been the best short circuit event in Ireland for years. You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
so so the people, we still have the fans who want to see it. We still have the riders who want to compete in it. We just need to put it together right. We need to make it attractive for the riders and attractive for the fans.
Look, absolutely, absolutely. We've had guys on the podcast and stuff talking, and I think kind of what we've heard this year was you would probably can relate to it. I know it's probably a little bit different up in Northern Ireland. Like there is probably a lot more as regards some short circuit tracks and say motocross and motorsport just seems to be a bigger entity in total up in the north. Whereas here not as much, and it is growing and it is getting better and stuff. But well, we did get word on this year that there was a bit of a meeting with the Sports Council of Ireland and the sports minister, and he has kind of taken on board the issue that's there, and he's kind of assured them that there is money there. There will be money there available to help towards getting things up and running with regards to, I presume, mainly insurance and stuff. So it's positive. It's definitely positive anyway. And look, we hopefully, we're all down here, fingers crossed, that we can get to like say the days back where we're up in Skerries, we're in Kells, or we're in Walterstown. That's what we all really want at the end of the day.
That would be brilliant if that did happen. I didn't know that, so that's great to hear that. But I know in the background there's people talking that want to make it happen. And I mean, there's no reason we couldn't make it happen because we've got strong. We had, and I'm sure they'll come back. We have, the Lockshinnies Club, the
Yeah,
Scaries Club, um,
Kells.
Kales. I forgot about those boys.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I forgot about anyone, please forgive me. But we have the clubs that can do it. Like we have the roads down there that can do it, and we've got Mandela Park. That's a brilliant short circuit.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if we would just work together, we need to work together hand in hand. And I know that from running our event last week. We need to work with each other because we need the support. There's just each club isn't big enough to do that all by itself. So if we get together, we can help each other, share facilities, share equipment, share everything, and make it a little bit more cost effective. Because last week, I'm on a bit of a rant here, but like
Oh,
we
go
had
for it.
like many, the people at our event, we had many English teams, English riders over. Like we had, four riders out of the top 10 in BSB over riding at our event. So
Mhm.
people do want to come to our country. Our hospitality here is the best in the world. We give people,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
so we do have we're proved this. We have English teams want to come over. We've got continental teams want to come over. We've got teams from further away want to come over. So just let's put the event together, make these people welcome, put a good enough show on for spectators and the fans, and we're there.
Absolutely. Look at as we said before, time and time again. it's a win-win. If you get the event up and running, you get the tourism, you get the revenue from that, your local shops, your pubs, everything. Everybody benefits. It's just to get it all together, get a plan in place, and hit the ground running. So hopefully 2026 will be the year.
I hope so because we can. The governments and the councils see it. Look at the northwest, the many people that brings into the north coast.
Absolutely.
The Ulster Grand Prix used to bring into the middle. We've brought a lot of people last week to Downpatrick. So
Yeah,
every town, everything in this country needs people, needs visitors because
absolutely.
visitors spend money and visitors rent hotels
Yeah.
and big B's and all the modern accommodation.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. Listen, I'm after holding you up enough. I'd say you were probably literally only ran in the door from work and you probably didn't even get the tea yet. So I'm not going to delay anymore. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. We started this podcast probably 8 months ago, with no experience, with one goal to try and push all the positive things that's out there for motorcycling in Ireland, whether it's lads that are into short circuit racing, road racing, lads that just get on their bike and head off for a weekend, or somebody that's trying to raise a few bob for a charity or something. And that was our whole goal. We probably didn't foresee a time when we get yourself on for a chat. I'm absolutely after enjoying it immensely, to be honest with you. And just thanks a million for coming on.
No, thank you very much. And it's just great to share stories. There's millions more stories in the middle of all that
Yeah,
stuff.
well, that's
But
I was about to say that actually. You know what I mean? I listen. I sit here all night listening to you. It's
So
brilliant.
would I.
You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I'd like to invite you on again at some stage. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Absolutely, I would. I'd love that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be
there's no
absolutely great.
problem.
If you're ever down in Mondello, it's about
Yeah.
20 minutes away from here. So yeah,
All
give me
right.
a shout for sure. Yeah, yeah. But
Brilliant. Well, I
we'll
do
keep.
need an excuse to go down because I've got lots of, motorcycle dealer friends and friends in Dublin and the whole surrounding area. And I keep saying, oh, next week, next week. So I will, in the next few months, make a point of going to Dublin.
Definitely, 100%. We're going to be organising. We're going to give the big exclusive. We're organising a bit of a fundraiser shortly for Kevin Keys, because he's tackling. He's heading for the British Superbike now and road race and stuff. So we're going to end up in Terence Healy's Motorcycles, who sponsors us here on the podcast. So if we can make it all work, so we might even see you down there. That'd be
But,
just
well,
cherry.
Terence is a good man. You're mixed up with a good man.
He is a great man, and
Yeah.
he says the very same about you, Philip. You go and get your tea. Thanks a million again for coming on, and yeah, we look forward to chatting to you in the future.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. Much appreciated.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, Philip.